Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 90 of Be With Me. We're in the book of Acts, and holy cow, this story ends with Paul being left for dead, dragged out of the city, having been stoned, and they thought he was dead. So this story ends with that. So we got to pay attention. How in the world do you get there? All right, so Paul and Barnabas are on a missionary journey. They've almost gone about as far as they're going to go. They're one city away from the farthest city that they're going to go to on the first missionary journey. And that city is called Lystra. Now at Lystra, this is from Acts chapter 14, verse 8. Now at Lystra, there was a man sitting who could not use his feet. He was crippled from birth and had never walked. He listened to Paul speaking, and Paul, looking intently at him and seeing the faith to be made well, said in a loud voice, "Stand upright on your feet." And he sprang up and began walking. So there's three miracles there. Number one is that the guy has faith, because that's, the hardest thing in the world. The second miracle is that Paul gets these spiritual eyes and he sees an interior process externally and sees with his eyes that this guy has faith. And then the third thing is, then he heals him. Now, Paul has already done an anti-miracle. He made the magician in another city in Pisidia blind, and we don't actually find out what happened to that particular guy with his miracle. Okay, so we got the guy, he gets healed. Now we're at verse 11. And when the crowds saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in Lycaonian, so in their native language, which apparently Paul and Barnabas don't understand, this is what they say secretly: "The gods have come down to us in the likeness of men. Barnabas they called Zeus, and Paul Hermes, because he was the chief speaker. And the priest of Zeus, whose temple was at the entrance of the city, brought oxen and garlands of gates and wanted to offer sacrifice with the crowds." That is, offer sacrifice to Paul and Barnabas. But so then Paul and Barnabas get the uptake here, and they finally understand what's going on, because this has happened with a secret local language that they don't know. Verse 14, "But when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of it, they tore their garments and rushed out into the crowd, crying out, 'Men, why are you doing these things? We also are men of like nature with you, and we bring you good news.'" And then he's going to tell what the good news is. I just want to pause here. In chapter 12, a couple of maybe a week or so ago, we talked about Herod. When they started to call him a god, he didn't correct them, and immediately an angel of the Lord struck him down because he did not give glory to God, and he was eaten by worms and breathed his last. So here, when Paul and Barnabas find out that people have been elevating them in a way that's inappropriate, idolatrous, which these people have a tendency to do apparently, they kind of go, DEFCON 4 and say, "Don't stop doing this. This is ridiculous. Turn from this." And then they're going to describe God. Now, in my mind, the way they describe God next is very attractive, but they're going to get some Jewish people that have traveled 100 miles come and sort of reinterpret the goodness that we see in God's character here, so much so that they're going to stone Paul unto death, or what they think is his death. All right, so here's how they describe the real God. He says, "We're also men of like nature with you, and we bring you good news, that you should turn from these vain things to a living God, who made heaven and earth and sea and all that is in them. In past generations, he allowed all the nations to walk in their own ways. Yet he did not leave himself without witness, for he did good by giving you rains from heaven and fruitful seasons, satisfying your hearts with food and gladness. And verse 18, the last one for today. Even with these words, they scarcely restrained the people from offering sacrifice to them. So they still want to worship Paul and Barnabas. Now, the next verse I'm not going to get to, but you'll never believe it. Come back tomorrow. So let's go back to how they describe God. First of all, we're just men. Secondly, your gods are vain and dead and plastic, and we worship the living God. So that's the biggest thing, is we worship a living God. And then they describe him as creator, that he made heaven, made earth, made sea, and made life, the things that live within those spheres, birds and fish and animals and people. Thirdly, or third big thing, is that he allowed you free will and people to walk in their own ways. I was thinking about the verse from Judges that everyone did what was right in his own eyes, which in a sense gives God some credit that he allows people free will. Now, we can make up some bad rules and invent gods that don't honor him, but at least he allows that freedom. And then the final thing is he gives this subtle presence in all these general revelations of himself in rain, in the season, in fruitfulness, in growth. How does a plant grow? Well, that's a miracle. And then the big one is the satisfaction. These, have you ever gone to bed and say, hey, I had a good day, or I had productive work today, or productive ministry, or I was able to care, or I, gained something today. Well, God invented all that. Or food. You ever enjoyed, a taco? Well, the flavors, he says, these are these general blessings that God gives. So all this sounds like good news until you get to tomorrow, because tomorrow they're going to stone Paul for all of this. And I'll tell you how that happens. In the meantime, enjoy the blessings of God today and the witness he gives us by rain and fruit and seasons and satisfaction in our hearts, and even the taste of food. Go to enjoy that today. See his revelation. I'll see you tomorrow.